Vandana Sehgal, Dean Faculty of Architecture, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University, Uttar Pradesh. Dr. Vandana Sehgal is an architect, an artist, and academician. As an academician, she has been teaching architecture since 25 years. She is currently the principal and dean of Faculty of Architecture and Planning, AKTU Lucknow. Her area of research is architectural theory. Her thesis was titled Abstract Ideas. She writes regularly in journals of theoretical aspects of architecture, cultural theory, pedagogy, and practical design issues. As an artist, she has done solo shows Between Spaces, Ramayana, Lucknow, ek-nazar, the Women and Krishnaa, and has partnered with India. She has painted illustrations for reputed authors and publishers. Many exhibitions like White on White, Sanctums, etc. As an architect, she is associated with documentation, conservation, and adaptive reuse of historical buildings like Chhattar Manzil and Lal Baradari, Lucknow. The documentation of many areas of Varanasi and planning projects like Urban Scheme of Government of India through institutional consultants. She is also associated like hotels, memorials, residential and interior projects in an honorary consultant's capacity. Ma'am, it's always been a pleasure to listen you, sometimes as a teacher, sometimes as a mentor, sometimes as a field expert or an academician. You are simply full of energy. Now hand over to you, ma'am, and drive some energy and vibrancy in this event. Hand over to you, ma'am, Dr. Vandana Sehgal, ma'am. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I am honored to be part of this quality improvement program, which is faculty. And we are glad that the Council of Architecture supports these kind of outreach programs in a very, very active and very, it has created and infused another level of energy in the architectural education field in India. And we should thank Sapna ma'am for being with us and, guiding us at every step. So today, this faculty development program is about education. It's about outcome-based education for architects. So I feel that a professional course, whether it's architecture or whether it's engineering, whether it's medical, we have been hearing about, like my mother used to say, you should get into a professional course, Why? Because it has an outcome, generally a professional course has an outcome, because we think that we are equipped or we are, after finishing that 5-year course in architecture or a 5-year course in medical or a 4-year course in engineering, or any other profession, we are equipped, to become or to become a doctor, to become a architect, to become an engineer and perform in the professional world, So it was never that. Professional field was always outcome based, in a very informal way, in a very informal way. There were no, diktats, that ye karna hai. Over the years, maybe professional education, I think, kind of mellowed or kind of, I think diluted would be a better word. It got diluted because of the commercialization of education. So I feel that it is today we are talking about it because of this commercialization that has happened in the professional education world. And but I would still say that architecture schools are still less commercialized because of the sheer fact, as Sapna ma'am just said, that it's a combination of so many streams of learning. It's a very holistic kind of a course. It's kind of called the mother of all arts, but it also incorporates this very important aspect of science, and so many, we have talked about this endlessly. But when we come to this juncture, and as Professor Sabharwal just said, we are at a juncture where NEP is being pushed in. And so NEP is this new education policy which Government of India has just initiated, and it has been passed by the Parliament, and it's a draft policy just now, and we need to work on how to implement it in the next 10 to 20 years. It is, we are having a lot of discussions in the council also, especially for architecture, that how can we implement this new education policy without diluting the intent of the course. Okay, so over the years, I think in India we have been very, very particular. The council is very strict about what kind of curriculum should be there for the architects, what is the duration of those courses, and what is the minimum you have to give as a core course, and then the rest of the courses come along with it. And what at this juncture we have to see what are we expecting, what is the outcome that we are expecting. So in this way, we have to actually say that over the years, how architects have been coming out and performing in the field. So earlier, this thing was based on the Bauhaus form of learning, and which was very hands-on and workshop oriented. But now it is diluted. I accept that over the years, because of many other pressures, there are a lot of new streams of education that are being promoted, and which an architect needs to know with the pressures of the new world. There are sustainability has come in, and the digitization has come in. So many other courses have to become part of architecture education. And before starting on the basic the need for it or something like that, I would like to actually quote a kind of a thing that as architects we are kind of generalist also. So we have to know almost little bit of everything. And I would also like to say that I have been on a lot of podiums for education and higher education, and in one of the meetings it was also quoted that maybe architecture is the only course which teaches innovation, mind you, because innovation is now talked about in a very, very big way in all the courses. Now they are saying the engineers should be taught innovation, and a normal higher education history student, should be taught innovation, because knowledge is one thing, but to innovate on one thing is a technique, and not it has to be taught. It cannot come, like, only very few people get it, intrinsically. So, but in an architecture course, we always have taught innovation, and we have got a very simplistic and yet a very innovative way of teaching innovation. And in our studios, so we have all the time, we have this kind of fight with authorities that no, our studios are more important, and they are not laboratories. They are basically a place for generating new ideas. And so so all this comes together, and we kind of think that, oh my god, architecture is so difficult to teach, it's so difficult to impart, yet it is one of the most innovative courses. So I used to wonder, when a few years back, a lot of my students or students from our college, used to go to IIT Mumbai software design program, and I used to wonder that we had never taught that time. Computers were not part of the curriculum so much, and we had initiated them, but it was not so much that they would know software design. So I actually, in one of the meetings, I met a Mumbai professor, and I asked him. He said, a lot of students from your college come to our course. So I actually asked him that day. I said, what do architects do in a software design course? And he told me such a beautiful thing. He says, if I have 10 students who have applied and 3 are architects, I first of all take the 3 architects and then think of others as a merit. He says, because your course is you equip students to think out of the box. We actually teach our students to create a solution. We maybe it's in a maybe roundabout way. We don't say 2 plus 2 is 4. Maybe the answer will be much more in a circuitous way and a more innovative way. What it comes out to be. And he says they are the students who we need in software design, because we need students to think out of the box. An engineer, we have to teach him innovation, but these 3 students who come from you are students who actually are equipped with that technique, to innovate and to come up with a software solution which nobody else has thought about. So I was teaching till by that time it was like 15 years into my academic life, and I was really stunned that, okay, do we do that? So, and then I started thinking that how do we innovate, and I started really going into the depth of what are the techniques that we teach and what do we teach actually, and then I realized that our course is really, really very, very holistic. And so there are definite outcomes, which are already set in the architectural course, but what we need is just to streamline them a bit. We need is to just put them into maybe a kind of a tabulated form, which we don't do. We are not, we just do it naturally. And I'm sure so many teachers who have joined in today, if you think about it, you don't even realize that you are actually teaching them how to think out of the box very subtly. You also don't, there are these standard exercises that we do with the students all the time, but it never occurs to us that, oh, what is it doing to their internal creative process in their mind. So I'll just start with a very little introduction of Vitruvius. So Vitruvius was this, he was basically, I think, kind of a civil engineer like he was taught in lot of kind of, I think he was not a tech, like in that he was he was in the Roman times, but he wrote this 10 books of architecture, and he presented it to the Caesar. He presented it to Caesar, who was his patron. And in that he wrote a lot of things, and till today they are relevant. If anybody has not gone through it, I would request you as academicians, you should go through it, because it says some very, very basic things about what architecture is and what architect should be, and so there are these basic things about site, and how do you manage a site, and how do you manage a, what scale is, or what technical input is. There are very, very basic things about maybe the beauty, the structure, which are everybody knows about those basic things which Vitruvius has said. But what today I will highlight is that he actually, talked about what are the qualities of an architect. So in that, just a minute, I'll just so he said that for an education of an architect, the architect should be equipped with the knowledge of many branches of study and varied kinds of learning. The knowledge comes from the combination of practice and theory, okay, which we always kind of talk about. And so what we need, I think I will just go along and tell that what we need is that integrate a little bit of more practice into our education system. In what way, we can talk about it later. The architect should be thorough in this knowledge, which comes from both scholarship as well as manual skill. One without the other does not make an effective architect. So what we have left behind in all these years is the manual skill. Because of the softwares and all that, we are on the software skills a little bit now, but the manual skills we are losing behind, of the workshop, of the art studio, of making installations and all that. That should come, be again part of it. The architect should be thorough in this knowledge. One who calls himself an architect should be well versed in both defining the architecture of something, but also be able to demonstrate its significance through scientific principles. For this, an architect not only needs to have natural abilities, but also an amenable to instruction. He should be open, that's what he says. He should be really open to all the knowledge that is growing every day in this world. Every day we have a different kind of idea that comes up, different kind of technology that comes up, different kind of software that come up. So we have to be abreast of all the latest that is happening in the world. And he needs to have a good understanding of functional attributes of technologies used in the buildings, which we somehow kind of sublet in our mind that, okay, this is not my job if it's more technical. So he has to have a holistic view of, or the knowledge of that, and he talks of, how he should be bothered about the acoustics or the sound effects in a auditorium, or how he should be aware of the environmental constraints. He talked about environmental constraints at that time, and today we are talking of environment in such a big way. At that time, he was only bothered about the site, but today we are bothered about what is happening in the world totally, and how we should use sustainable means and all that, And he said that he should be aware of the law and regulations which are used in the design of the building. And he says that people have no right to call themselves architects hastily without having climbed from the bottoms of the steps of knowledge necessary, that educating themselves by the knowledge of many subjects and reaching the heights of architecture profession. In essence, it takes time and experience to become an architect, according to him. And so, all these are, he was, kind of in a talk. He talked of this a holistic kind of a being. He talked of philosophy, that the architect should be bothered about philosophy also, but nowadays we have little bit of everything in it, but not in such a big way, So what we are trying to say is that in this context, what do we have to teach, So it apart from all that, and the national education policy, the new education policy is also talking about this, what all has to go in, So they're talking of a very interdisciplinary kind of a system of education that should be there. And it should also, it's talking of the way a hub can be created, and they're talking of this various higher education clusters, So these clusters are basically will be the knowledge hubs with minimum 3,000 students in one place, So there will be affiliations amongst each other, there'll be a lot of affiliations, and we should talk as architects. Affiliations suit our stream of thought and all that. So as for example, so they talk of these academic hubs. And so one of the hubs can be maybe architecture and planning, which we are our prime education, which we give to architects. But it can be clubbed with these subjects also: the fine arts and graphics, design, fashion technology, music and performing arts, language and communication, sports. So this it will be one hub. Then the second hub can be more technical. It can be civil engineering, environment sciences, mathematics, statistics, coding, management, and geography. Okay, so this can be another hub, and the third hub can be philosophy, psychology, sociology, anthropology, Indology, archaeology, economics. So this curriculum can be flexible to incorporate credits from anywhere. And they can be a core curriculum, and these can be the additional maybe the add-ons, which any student should be allowed to take. And so it becomes a very, very flexible kind of, some student is more inclined towards philosophy and sociology and anthropology, he should be allowed to excel in that. And besides that, I feel we will have to divide, kind of prioritize, whether our institute will be research based or basically just basic teaching based, because there will be, of course, a healthy mix also, but there we have to give choice to the faculty to go into full-time research, because then only we can reach a level of research which is of very high quality. Otherwise, what is happening, it's a very mishmash kind of a thing. Teachers are involved in teaching, and the level of research that they can do is not so focused, and it is not so high in quality that it can make a difference in any field. So I feel that is why we are lagging in research, because we don't have specialized. So when a faculty comes in, the institute has to ask its priority of whether they will go into research, and then there will be a mandatory stepping for them that, okay, they have to churn out maybe 4 papers or 5 good papers in a year, and do minimal teaching, maybe involved with PhD students and the master's students. But the basic teachers, have to devote primary time with the students, which is really, really needed, and and how they do it, that will come to later. So I feel at this juncture, we are also turning, we call ourselves the digital world, and we the digital, parameters or digital. We are going just digital in everything, especially with this pandemic. We have seen that we have just gone online, and today also we are doing an online faculty development program, which was unheard of before. So and now we are so used to it, in fact, in this whole year. But still, I feel that digitization and technology is the kind of way forward for architecture. Having said that, I also believe that basic offline, basic hands-on learning is part of the innovation strategy or innovative learning strategy in architecture. So that is important, but after doing that, we can put major courses online also, and may do MOOCs courses, so we can kind of optimize or do a blended kind of a learning in future, and for that we have now some softwares which were luxury before are a compulsion now. For example, parametric software has come in a big way, not only, just as firstly it was just a gimmick as an animation software, but now it has become a very, very important software, because so many plugins are there to kind of rationalize designs through technology, which cannot be done by human mind sometimes. So after going through the basic churning in the mind, one can and one should be aware of the parametric software, and sometimes be very, very proficient in it. And many faculty members now are taking courses in it, and because students go ahead of you, so you have to be abreast of the students to keep pace with technology, and keep pace with time. Because at the end of it, students should always respect you, and they will respect you if they think they know little more than what they do. So I have learned a lot from my students. I have learned softwares from my students, besides a lot of other ideas also. And one should never keep that window closed, because you should always know for certain that you are also, or maybe learning more than imparting. And besides that, we have BIM, which is going on for a long time. It's a building information and material analysis, which we do with software. And then there are these GIS, geospatial planning is done by the GIS, which has almost become, you know, mandatory for any planning project. And now we are coming to virtual reality. We are using that in conservation projects currently. But if one has a virtual reality lab in one in your institute, it will be such an asset, because the students can then maybe create that virtual reality and walk through their projects, and then maybe get that hands-on feel of the what space they have created, and maybe they will become more sensitive architects. And besides that, the new materials that are coming up, the alternate materials that are coming up, that needs to be emphasized in a very, very big way in terms of technology also, because sustainability is now one is a passive kind of a sustainability, which we have to take as a way forward, or as a part of life, and recreate the earthiness. But some for example, we shouldn't be using so much wood, so alternates in wood have to be created, alternates in maybe brick have to be created, because of the we are eroding the top surface. So all this has to be, you know, part. Technology has to be a very, very important part. Technology is now imperative in administrating uh, academic institute. You know, I think that is ERP. You've must have heard of ERP. You know, so it is the face of an institute now. You know, so, and it is transparent, that everything is on that screen that you are seeing in front of you. Anything about that academic institute, how many students are there, how many students have come to the class, how many students have submitted their this thing, how many students have submitted what kind of fees, how many students, and so it becomes a self-rating kind of a methodology, you know. So there is nobody who's coming and inspecting you. Whatever you put on the ERP, or whatever goes on the ERP naturally, is your window or your mirror to your institute, you know. So I think that is a kind of a very, very the way forward. There is no other way that one can administer the education institutes now, you know. And we so after having gone through, you know, all the you know, basic things that what we'll have this time, you know, I also want to say that our reach with industry, you know, has to be a little more connected. And for that, all it should be compulsory for all the colleges to start consultancy cells and do consultancy in a private or a government capacity, whatever their rules have to be now tweaked to, in order to you know, incorporate that. Because the moment you do that, they will be a more connect with the industry. And in fact, I was thinking that one can even incorporate some, if there are some architects who are practicing, if they can be brought on board, you know, for any of the maybe senior classes, maybe third year or fourth year class, and he or she takes up one of his projects in the studio, you know, and makes them do with the students. So then there will be a lot of you know, he has, it will be his studio. He knows what to get done, and the students will learn a lot from him, learn the practicality. So then it should be a thing which is like kind of moved forward a little. So for the site supervision, for making working drawings, so what kind of drawings are needed, so the industry actually combines with the academicians to actually give a way forward to the students. Because students sometimes tell us that you know, what you teach is so idealistic, and when we go out, we don't use those details anymore. We don't sometimes they say we don't use those materials anymore which you are teaching. So I feel that maybe if one studio in maybe after their practical training finishes, one can involve one practicing architect as a mentor of one of the studios, and that design would be design and construction together would be totally, and maybe structure also if needed, and how these three go hand in hand, so that can come together in this in a very, very beautiful way. So one has to be innovative in how one teaches, how one gets to the in the studio, and this I'm sure all of you have talked about it in your studios. You all go through it, so but since I just told you that I have started really thinking that what is innovation and how do we innovate. I started reading some theory about innovation, how to teach. So I realized that when uh, in the history of architecture education, Bauhaus was one of the first real schools in architecture education. Of course, earlier there were these Polytechnique and all that, which were more drawing oriented, which were more maybe structure oriented, which were more typology oriented. But Bauhaus was the first school which actually started teaching how design, how to design. So there were these lots of senior architects who were involved in it, and uh, the architects whom we have read about. So they actually used to, artists who we have read about or we see their paintings, they actually taught in Bauhaus, and they were the ones who actually started the methodology or what they thought a student should know, and so I'll talk a little bit about Bauhaus's theory, that what they thought and how later on, maybe there were a lot of people who were talking about it. And there was this writer called, he was a philosopher, Edward Bono, and he talked of lateral thinking, and he has written many, many books, and he does many, many workshops on creative thinking and lateral thinking, which is one of his key theories, and how it helps in our studios to change whatever we are, change the mindset of the students. And very subtly, the students don't even come to know that they are being taught something, so that is the beauty about it. So lateral thinking, I feel, is it's basically a theory, which talks, there are two kinds. There are vertical thinking and lateral thinking. So vertical thinking is basically how do you differentiate between the two? So lateral thinking is concerned with restructuring these patterns, which in vertical thinking, you are trying to prove that concept pattern. There are these concept patterns which are available in our mind, and but engineer is taught with vertical thinking. He's given a concept and he's told how to prove it, so he goes by experimental way to prove it. So that is a vertical thinking process. But a lateral thinking process is that we are concerned with restructuring these concept patterns. We restructure, we think out of the box and say, no, this concept can be done like that also, and so it creates new patterns. So architect is taught through lateral thinking, through creativity, how to make new patterns. So that is the creativity that our profession requires in a very, very big way. So this how do we organize these processes? Okay, so one is that one has to be very, very in a studio, one has to be very creative. As a teacher, you have to, actually you can just play with ideas with the students, and one can just select a day that, okay, today is a red day. It looks like a very, very kindergarten theory, but Bauhaus was based on kindergarten theory. That how to teach a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old to 4-year-old the concepts of life, the concepts of language, the concepts of color. So they got that same theory in Bauhaus to teach young students how to grasp how to innovate, how to learn beauty, how to learn abstraction, how to learn the basics of designing, So the same theory was, that kindergarten theory was adopted by Bauhaus, and I think in some way we still use that theory, of course not to the fullest, because we have stopped doing the workshop which Bauhaus was very famous for. Until today we have like 100 designs of furniture from Bauhaus, in schools, in chairs and tables and furniture, and maybe in structure design also, So because they did everything hands-on in the workshop, part of their work was just working with materials, 50% of their work. So I know many schools in India also today who are working 1 year only with material. They don't have a sheet to make. They don't have any drawing to make in the first year. Maybe some painting, some kind of installation, that is a different thing. But it's not like a course. They only work with hands, So I think that is a very, very important part of learning. So like kindergarten says, play with clay, play with the bricks, play with this. So we kind of, innovate on that idea, and then making a connection, so I feel that a teacher should definitely make a connection. So connection might be coming down to a level of a student, how to come down to that level of the student. I had very eminent teachers who taught me, Professor Nangya was one of them. And I remember we were taking a studio together. Later on I had the privilege of teaching with him also. And he and one of the girls, she did some design, and I was very irritated that, don't you get the turning radius of a car, and I was like quite mad. And that girl started crying, and I got little psyched that why is she crying? I've not said anything. But Nangya sir came at that moment, and he says you to get down to her level, because she doesn't know what a car is, and she's never sat in a car, and she doesn't know how a car turns, so you have to actually be patient, and connect with them, even get down to the level of gossiping in their kind of lingo. Lingo is there this thing, and chilling with them, some things like that. I think architects are more amenable to that, and I think engineers get little this thing by the informality which the architects always have. And then one can give them quizzes, one can give them like these true and false kind of a thing. Okay, if we do this, what if we, and there should be element of surprise in the assignment that we are doing. So this was one of the things which I've learned from Bono, that there should be and it should be always added with imagination, humor, insight, make them do cartoons, make them talk about one situation. Suppose you give a painting to them, that okay, what do you think about this painting? What colors, why has he used this red color? And then maybe don't talk of directly, or this is lateral thinking, that you don't talk of, okay, we want to do one house today which will have 2 bedrooms, 2 toilets, one this thing, so that program totally puts their mind in those rectangles which they will start making the moment you tell them to start designing. So but the informal ways of designing are very, very different. So in holistic approach, we have to talk of the cognitive skills, or the mental skills, or the knowledge which they have, and the affective, which are the emotional, the sensitive, the attitude oriented part that is of the design. And then the psychomotors, the manual, the dexterous ability of the students, which we have to evaluate. So I'll can I just share my screen? I can just show few exercises which I like to show, so that it just opens up the mind of just a little bit. Can I do that?
Yes, ma'am, sure.
Okay.
You can do that.
So could you see that? Could you see
Yes,
my screen?
it's visible, clearly visible.
Is it? I can't see it. Yeah.
It's visible. Thing is
Yeah.
of the Bauhaus grammar and some abstracts.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can just do the full screen, then maybe it will be better. So basically, Bauhaus is this grammar which talked of visual communication, celebration, learning, and they talked of these primary colors and what the colors of grammar say, what the abstraction does, and that focus was on elementary and the original. This was one of the major things that Bauhaus did, and this was carried on by Rousseau and maybe the Fribble's kindergarten concepts of education. So they were Jonas Itten was one of the leading artists. He told students that you have to unlearn whatever you have learned. Abhi bhi kai baar hota hai, we have got one or two students who come from after doing diploma. So we actually tell them you have to unlearn whatever you have learned. Now you have to actually think of innovation and not of drafting. So it is more than drafting. So, and then Kandinsky talked of the point and line and plane. So they abstracted architecture to these three basic concepts, from which you grow and you make your concepts grow. And then Gropius was more bothered about the workshop-oriented crafts, arts, and fine arts, and so it's basically that the whole Bauhaus course was based on this kindergarten theory. And these were the few very simple exercises that Kandinsky did about the point, line, plane, incline. And, so it just kind of making students do incline, plane. And it's amazing that the kindergarten students are also allowed, made to do those incline lines, standing lines, sleeping lines. The first exercise that the student gets in writing is that. And the same thing, I think we kind of invent the creativity in them. So, and that is why they say that the student, the small child is always more creative than a person who's grown up. And I remember one of my school teachers, she had a small daughter, and she was standing outside, and there was high elephant kind of grass in front of our school campus. And she said, the little girl told her mom that ये हवा कितनी सुंदर दिख रही है ना. So then she said, बेटा हवा दिखती नहीं है. हाँ. And she said, अरे दिखता नहीं है, देखो कैसे ऐसे 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 चल रही है. हाँ. So it was beautiful alliteration. She was seeing the grass, and she was seeing the grass through the air, or the air through the grass. And somehow, because of science, because of logic, we kind of forget that this is also needed in creativity. So they kind of, in Bauhaus, we kind of unlearn whatever we have learned, and we relearn the creative process again. And this is again the Kandinsky's analytical drawing class, where he has told them to make some clasps, join some clasps, and making the drawing and making several other things. And this is maybe another thing that it's somewhat clear but unclear, but there was a table, and there's these balls which are there. So how the focus is on the ball, and how it is like superimposed to create composition. So if somebody's some composition is there, how to analyze that composition and focus it on it. So going backwards on it, and how making lines and crumpling the paper. This we have done lots and lots of time in our studios. And then this is on maybe modular construction, how they were the first to do modular construction in their this thing. Some graphic design cookbook was made, that what is graphic design, and how it is very, very important for an architect, to learn that. This is this thing from John Heduck. I follow him a lot, and he was a great educationist, and he was from Cooper School of Architecture in New York. And this is his 9 square exercise that he does, and we do it all the time in our second years to create a kind of a awareness about what spatial planning is, and how space changes with just like one change in the plane, and one change in the line, one change in the point. So how it changes a lot. So lots of permutation combinations are done with this exercise, like this, maybe with the curves, and maybe with the angles, and with the different kind of juxtapositions. So these kind of, creative exercises, they kind of change the psychological aspects. So this is like from part to whole, whole to part. So the small photograph was taken of these cushions, and then it was cut into various parts, and then we told them to enlarge it and paint it, and color it, so one square was given to everybody, and then they recreated it on the wall of the studio, and so unconsciously they are getting the whole and the part and the part and the whole kind of, exercise. It helps them, tune their scale oriented. This is maybe space sensitivity. We cut a this thing in it, papaya, and make them sketch, and then the perfect one they kind of color, and so just to get the inside space of a papaya, to get it right. This is we measured Hazratganj with, and made a collage with just foot and hand, the first exercise to get the scale right, so that is important. This is history of architecture models that we always make, and this was one of the exercises where all the models were made in one scale, of or many historical and how that central space with one human scale was added to it, and how just to get, because history shouldn't be taught as history, it's history of architecture. It should give them a perspective of scale, perspective of material, perspective of context, and a lot of other things which should be imparted through this course, so then there is this affective activity. As we said, this painting of Mondrian this is the Hedux exercise, and he gave this exercise to the students, and they cut it into half, and how to incorporate an artist's house in it and all that, So these are few drawings which he always promoted, this axonometric views on this thing. These are another exercises which I also follow in term when I teach theory of architecture. So we take these various architects and their theories, and we try and design according to their theory, so it kind of embeds that how that theory is, practically used by the architect also. So then this psychomotor activity is very, very important. Maybe sketching, maybe doodling. We were told to just doodle in our Chandigarh College of Architecture. We were told to doodle and finish, I think, sketchbooks upon sketchbooks with those 6B and charcoal and, different kind of inks. So this is and maybe some 2D paintings in terms of murals, or in terms of corrugated sheets, and just to get the texture right, to get the materiality right, so all these, this is one of the exercises we did it as a pattern this thing, because we had to do some school or something like that, so where different modules were used. So we told them to just take some pattern from the nature, or anywhere you see, and then we kind of made sketches out of it. We traced it, then we made 3D or 2D, first 2D, then 3D, then photographs, then and it was like an amazing exercise. And then later on we told them, okay, then now you fit one function into it, so later on they fitted the function, which became a very so instead of going from those repetitive rectangle blocks that they draft on AutoCAD just to begin with, one can start with this very lateral kind of an exercise, very which does not pressurize them to think in terms of function, but in terms of spatial order, So this is another kind of similar, and this is one thing which we made of Pythagoras house, and how this triangle, and how to fit in an artist cottage there or something like that. So it became a very interesting exercise, and how they connected the two. The structural design, which is very hands-on, in our studios. So how this, the basic logic of everything works. And this we made full scale models of truss, of the true arch, and so what I feel is that it's important to be innovative in studios also. Besides being, this thing, it's important to document. It's important to, so again, another thing, one can really go, one has to really work hard on that a little. For example, teaching history. we just taught from books and made it as interesting as possible. Maybe do a puppet show of the um, regional Islamic thought process, or the buildings that were made. So we did some Katputli shows, some, lot of things we keep doing. We did play also once, but I feel that documenting these processes is very important as well. So as academicians, you should document these processes, because if you document it, the logic will come out. You will know that no, we went wrong here, because when you अभी आप चलते जाओगे स्टूडियो में, आपको पता नहीं चलेगा कि क्या actually outcome क्या निकला है उस स्टूडियो का, because we have to be very clear कि what should the children be equipped with after the studio ends, so अगर आप वो process उसको document करेंगे, आप हर process का photograph लेंगे, हर process का आप उसको write up बनाएंगे कि इस स्टेज में हमने ये करा, इस स्टेज में इन 3 हफ्तों में हमने ये सब accomplish कर लिया, and then by the end of it you will realize no, it didn't come out the way it did, or it came out the way it did. So why it came out, and why didn't it come out in the last semester? So if you document it, it will teach you how to make it more outcome based. आपको लगेगा नहीं वो साइट पे वो केस स्टडी कराना बेकार था, because the moment they did the case study, ये लगा कि वो तो same copy सा हो गया, so maybe next time we will not do a case study, and we will try and do it without the case study, but we will give them the various parameters of the thing that we need in the program, so it is a way of self-learning, but also one can then write an article, one can write an informed paper about it, that what is the way forward for teaching maybe hospital design, or maybe teaching a school design, maybe teaching the spatial planning, So I have realized that documentation is the key to everything. So we, as a principal, we do a kind of a small booklet, at the end of a studio to kind of see that what went wrong or what went good, or what was the simple process, because process has become very important and is important in my mind, then only I think we can evolve and come to a situation that, okay, we started from here and we are ending here, so then outcome based is because of that, in the larger picture, outcome is also in terms of profession, that are our students being given their due, or have they made it big, so that analysis, we need statistics, we need this complete, as I said, ERP system on which the students can upload from time to time what they are doing, because architecture is not like that कि उसको KPMG में मिल गया, उसको यहाँ मिल गया placement, यहाँ मिल गया. So it is very difficult for us to show our outcome, and I realize now that since we have started doing this exercise for our college, we realize that there are so many students who are doing beautifully well. I was sitting on a jury of Ayodhya the day before, and this guy, I said, oh, I know him, and he was presenting so beautifully, so confidently, and I'm a little forgetful, so I didn't reach out and say, are you my student, because I'm scared that maybe he'll say, no ma'am, I'm not your student, so but later on they told me he's Harsh Goyal, and I said, oh my god, he's from my college, I've taught him, and they told me later that he's gone abroad, did his MBA from NCR, and today he's heading this firm. He's one of the creative partners in that firm which he was heading, which he was representing that day, and he did so well, and I was super proud, so I feel that art students do as well, and I think APJ students do as well, and any other schools students do as well. But in architecture, we just don't keep documentation. We don't even bother. अच्छा कर रहा है, बस बहुत बढ़िया कर रहा है, उसकी बहुत अच्छी practice है. We don't bother कि what is he specializing in, वो क्या कर रहा है, what can he give back, So I think a time has come now, and we have the means due to technology that we can connect, and we can actually, come to a conclusion that what architecture, a certain architecture college is doing in terms of outcome, what is the outcome that is coming out of that, and it also will, I think, make us sure that what is our forte, is our forte more about space? Is our forte more about technology? Is our forte more about maybe sustainable options? You know, if the majority of them are going into that, and it depends on the faculty mix, definitely, you know, and one should be more aware of it. You know, it's not that it is not there, it has always been there. As I said, even my mom used to say that bhai professional college mein chale jao to you know, at least life is set, according her, I mean, quote unquote, she used to say life set hai, you know, ki you are sure you'll earn something, you know. So that was what a professional college meant, that was what professional education meant. But today we are rethinking, because people have diluted it, and it is true that it, and it is a very, very harsh fact today that actually we are questioning that, are we imparting the right mix, you know? So are we because making it sustainable in terms of finance is as important, you know, education system, or agar anybody is running a college, making it run as a financial model is as important. But is there a balance of what we are imparting and what the person is getting? So this will only happen. So there are these parameters which I read about. I read about the outcome-based education once I got the topic. And so it is basically, they've got a lot of parameters, but those parameters are unquantifiable in terms of architecture. So it is very difficult to say ki what we have done as an outcome. So we might have to make a little more flexible parameters for this, little a lot of thinking has to go in it. So again, my request to Sapna ma'am, to the Council of Architecture, to Habib sir, is that we should make a accreditation policy or a rating policy for architecture colleges as soon as possible, because to judge us with the parameter of engineers is not fair. We are not judgeable, you know. I realize half the form is actually empty if we fill a NAC form, or a, you know, any form that we are supposed to fill for accreditation, and that is why we are not getting accredited, you know. And it is not that we are not worth being accredited, it's just that our the way we teach and what we teach, and what is the outcome of that teaching is kind of intangible, you know. It is partly intangible. So can we make some little you know, parameters which can judge, you know, this kind of our kind of input, you know? And for this the council has to come forward, and we are working towards it also. And we expect that in the coming year we will be able to do that, and many colleges will be accredited according to it. And we will also have a sense of our worth in this madly you know, quantified world of education, you know. And it is very, very beautiful that this topic has been taken up, and and I see there is an array of, you know, people, academicians, practitioners who will contribute to this program. And I'm sure, you know, I will log in whenever I can, because if I want to hear what somebody is saying, I will log in whenever I can. But it's an honor that I have I've kind of given a flag off to this course. And I am hoping that this takes a, you know, makes people think, you know, makes the faculty think, because that is very, very important. Have that introspection, that what you are imparting, what is coming out, you know. It is very intangible, but you have to do it, you know. And you have, for this, please, please, please make videos, document it, do photographs, print it, you know. I think that is the only way forward, you know, for analyzing this, that what is our outcome, you know. And it's very, very important. Please do that. And as an academic institute, again, we have to think of parameters. How do we judge ourselves, and how do we go forward? And in terms of NEP, we have to think of what all courses can be combined with us, what all can courses can really kind of help us become a more holistic course, you know, and we are working in that direction also. We are trying to, because small colleges like yours and mine are have to have combinations, have to have synergies, which kind of create a kind of a, so I think the best part about this new education policy is that it is creating a kind of borderless kind of an education system, which suits the architects really a lot, you know. And I think it will be a great you know, kind of a world which you know, can be like, if somebody wants to maybe learn in artificial intelligence, and he can incorporate that in architecture, you know. So it's about, you know, opening our minds, opening our viewpoints, and thinking of other subjects also, which can inform architecture education in a better way, make architect more confident, and and at this juncture I would also go on to say, make the architect, you know, so confident that nobody else takes away that glory from him. Thank you.
I think that's wonderful. I just wanted to step in here. You know, you could see that the chat box is not enabled. I was about to give my observations, but anyway, now that we are online, ma'am, you're so inspiring, and I've heard you before on so many platforms, and I knew that it would be another inspiration coming from you. It was so inspiring, and I think this will kickstart our 5-day session and take it to a different level. So many of the ideas that you shared, and I'm sure I'm going to talk to my teachers also. And of course, we are also working on similar lines, but some of the ideas that you've shared, we would also like to implement and, you know, share it with our faculty and students. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, really, it was wonderful, ma'am. You touched the core of the topic wonderfully. It was very energetic and very thought-provoking. So, ma'am, there are a few observations. Like one of the faculty member of our college is asking a question, like if it is difficult to measure the creativity or of any design exercise within a limited time, because it's a long process. Is it really possible to assess anyone's creativity within 6 hours of design exam?
No.
Like we conduct 6 hours of design exam. Is it really possible to judge?
No, I agree. So I am in fact kind of going towards exam-less kind of design and construction, because you know, design is basic, and as you go, maybe in first year it is still possible, you know, maybe they do a small 2D exercise or 3D exercise or something like that, and but we are all part of systems which, you know, one has to follow. But taking my frank opinion about it, we cannot judge it. I am sorry, but yes, one can. I thought instead of taking, you know, हम लोग लिख देते हैं कि we want one plan, one this thing to scale so and so. We should write that. We should just take the concept, you know, कि आप, what do you think? Just write about it, sketch about it, you know. Suppose एक स्कूल है, तो एक बच्चे का कॉन्सेप्ट होगा जरूर, वो 6 घंटे में आ जाएगा. So you're not judging the child on the drawing that he has made or the perspective that he has made, which happens because वो question paper में लिखा जाता है. So how we make our question papers and what we want to see, this is also outcome based, कि आप क्या judge करना चाहते हो उसका, you know. So every teacher, I think it's a great topic to be for architects, because for any teacher, for example, you know, because क्या होता है, when there were no when I started teaching or anybody young starts teaching, वो सिर्फ जैसे मैं हिस्ट्री पढ़ाती थी, बैरिस्टर फ्लेचर उठाकर अपना रट रुट के हम स्लाइड्स बना के बस पढ़ा देते थे, you know. Then I got few new books, Kostov gives Spyro Kostov and all the settings and rituals. And then I started realizing that context is more important. Let me talk about context. And my lectures became much more interesting, because then I talked of why Egypt is, how it is, wo kyun bana waisa? Why is it so rectilinear? So these answers made students so excited about, what Egyptians did. Otherwise, वो सोते रहते होंगे class में, पहले, how does it matter कितना बड़ा pyramid है? They are not bothered. They've not seen it, So I feel that then later, ये भी, it comes with experience. But since ये quality program हो रहा है, that is why मैं बोल रही हूँ, everybody should introspect. ये जरूर अपने आप से question हर teacher को पूछना चाहिए कि आप क्या पूछना क्या चाह रहे हैं बच्चे से क्या इन एन एग्जाम क्या आप चाहते हैं उससे. अगर आप उसका आइडिया चाहते हैं और वो डुएबल भी होना चाहिए उस टाइम पर, अगर 6 घंटे में वो डुएबल है, आप वही चीज दीजिए उसको, वही उतना ही दीजिए. डोंट टेल हिम कि इसने स्केल पे बना दो, उतने स्केल पे बना दो. डोंट टेल हिम दैट. वो फिर वही ड्राफ्ट ही करेगा. ही विल नॉट डू हिज आइडिया. सो यू टेल हिम कि ओके, जस्ट डू दिस आइडिया ऑफ अ स्कूल in a desert, with this. What are the 3 things that you will use as a passive, technique for keeping it cool? And what are the 3 things you will do to make the children play outside? So you can do it very differently. आप उस वाले टेस्ट को आप वैसा बना सकते हो. आप स्टूडियो भी हमें बहुत लिमिटेड टाइम होता है. हम 5 स्टार होटल करते हैं. हम जनरल, अगर हम इन प्रैक्टिकल, आई वाज एसोसिएटेड विद अ 5 स्टार होटल. इट टुक 3 years to just finalize that plan with the client. I am telling you, so it depends. जल्दी भी हो सकता होगा किसी client से, but हो सकता है this client was different. but हम उस स्टूडियो में हम उसको 2.5 महीने में, I am telling 2.5 महीने is the outer limit. हम उसको फिट कर देते हैं उस 5 स्टार वाले प्रोग्राम को. because तब हमको सोच लेना चाहिए कि we are not thinking more about the outward view. ज्यादा नहीं हम we are talking of services, क्योंकि आप उस 2.5 महीने में शायद सर्विसेज और फसादी करवा सकते हो, उससे ज्यादा नहीं करवा सकते, है ना. सो आप वही उसी पे आप कॉन्सेंट्रेट करिए. मुझे लगता है वी शुड, अगर एवरी टीचर हु गोज इन द स्टूडियो और अ क्लास नोज कि उसको निकालना क्या है बच्चे से, तो आई थिंक उसका प्रोसेस भी डिफरेंट होगा, उसकी एक्सपेक्टेशंस भी डिफरेंट होंगी, एंड उसका लेक्चर थीम भी डिफरेंट होगा फिर. So it is always because as you've rightly pointed out, भैया क्या ढूंढ रहे हो आप उसके अंदर बच्चे से क्या. It's just it should not become a futile exercise. That is what I'm saying. कि हम खाला पूर्ति नहीं करनी चाहिए हमको कि चलो ये उसमें लिखा है सिलेबस में यार करके खत्म करो इसको. That should not be our attitude. तो हम सिलेबस के ऊपर सदा एक एम लिखते हैं, कि what is the aim of this subject, teaching this subject. तो कई बार वो एम जस्ट फॉर द हेक ऑफ इट लिखा जाता है, बट कई टीचर्स बहुत सोच के लिखते हैं उसको, तो उस सिलेबस के एम को जरूर, और अगर एम नहीं भी लिखा है तो आप अपना एम जरूर बनाइए इन योर कॉलेज कि आप क्या निकालना चाहते हैं इन द एंड ऑफ द स्टूडियो. So I feel that is very, very important, and all teachers should think about it. Definitely.
Very true, very true. It means instead of focusing only on the curriculum and pedagogy, it is very, very important to focus on the assessment pattern also, because this is going to lead the next 2 steps. Right, ma'am. Very well said. And I'll request all the panelists, if you have any other question or query or something, we can discuss further. Even the participants, if you have any question, please put in the question answer box. Right. Someone just messaged me like NEP is more about, even if when we talking about the higher education, NEP is more about the humanity and the environment, and so architecture is. So to a certain extent, architecture is already very well aligned with the NEP. So what else, what more innovative thing we can do in architectural education to align our education with the NEP?
Yes, so there are plus points and minus points of our alignment with NEP.
Right.
So NEP at one level is talking of these higher education institutes or hubs, you know, which will have minimum 3,000 students in one, under one umbrella. Okay.
Right.
And also this would mean not one course, there will be many courses. As I already talked about, we should make these hubs of maybe this liberal arts, maybe technical side of engineering, and maybe the philosophical aspect of theoretical aspects, you know. So there will be these various hubs, including dance, including maybe sports, you know, which are as important today, you know, according to the world, you know. So ये अगर hubs बन जाते हैं उसके अंदर, so we will always have our course. So हम अभी भी वही करते हैं, हमारा एक core रहता है, which is of design, construction, and maybe structures, and rest of them maybe services, you know, services also. These four things are our core thing, which is very technical, and an architect should know. But knowing that, having said that, the other things like maybe the history, the sociology, the fine arts, the maybe music to some extent, maybe, you know, dancing to some extent, maybe, you know. So all these are also inform, you know, this digital, this software learning, you know, and AI maybe, you know. So they kind of inform our course in a very, very big way now, you know. So it will definitely strengthen it if we go in the right direction, you know, and which I'm sure we will. And it will, I think we will be much more, little more open, you know. तो उसमें क्या होगा, मुझे जो लग रहा है कि बच्चे का चैनलाइजेशन हो जाएगा. सपोज एक बच्चे का, बहुत तरह के बच्चे आते हैं, लाइक वन चाइल्ड हु इज रियली इनटू सॉफ्टवेयर एंड ऑल दैट, वो शुरू से ही अपना फर्स्ट ईयर से अपना सॉफ्टवेयर की क्लास भी साथ में लेगा. उसके अंदर he will learn the best softwares and he knows how to integrate it with his मेन स्ट्रीम वही रहेगा, जो उसका जो एक हब है, वो जो मेन जो है उसका एक, वो तो वही रहेगा. तो उसके साथ it will, and some child might be more theoretical, he would go into philosophy, and might go into theory, and he might get aligned with that. And then there might be somebody who's more bothered about the energy quotient and sustainability. He might take ecology, he might take geography, and then he gets aligned with architectural this thing. So it is the channelization of a child's mind will begin at that first year level only. You know, that is my feeling. It is too early to say, but we are also really earning. And this, I having said that, I'll say NEP is more, will be the most, it will be come to fruition after 20 years, because they are aiming for change in primary structure of primary education. Okay, so unless primary education is changed, innovation will be taught there, then only this thing will be reflected in the students also. Just students aayenge, they will be more open. They will say, you know, I want to do this also. I want to do this also. And then it will change. It will change very, very gradually. You know, it's a 20-year course, 20-year way ahead, you know, but I think we have to take this turn. The NEP is this turn for that, you know. We are not there. It's a long journey, but I think we will be there. We are quite, our course is quite in tune with NEP. I think so.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.